Hey everybody, Willow here. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, so I apologize if I look like absolute crap and my voice is a little weird. But I'm making this video because I'm going to tag Men's Wearhouse in this, because what happened to me last night, there was a little bit of an incident. I pretty much got clocked. And I just kind of wanted to tell the story to spread awareness out there, and that, you know, ladies shouldn't shop at this store. So I needed some genuine leather gloves. It's a bit of a cold snap here right now, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm very sensitive to the cold, especially my feet and my hands. And I also have, my hands are a little larger than most women, so if I want to get a nice pair of gloves, I have to go to Men's Wearhouse. It is what it is for now, and, you know, it is what it is. So I went in there, and I was looking at the glove display, which was near the kind of the front entrance of the store. And one of the sales associates came over. I forget his name, but he put his hand out to introduce himself and to ask me if I needed help with anything. And I put my hand out like a lady, horizontally. I did not go in with the vertical handshake like a man. But he grabbed my hand and he squeezed, this son of a bitch squeezed my hand like I was a fucking auto mechanic. I fucking screamed at the top of my lungs. I dropped my coffee, and just by reflex, I swung a slap and I hit him like just below the ear right here. And when I hit him, he slapped me right back, and I fell back, and I went on the floor. And at this point, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. And one of the reasons I'm screaming at the top of my lungs is because I was tucking, and when I fell back onto my bottom, I sat on my nutsack a little bit. And so I was in obvious pain. And I heard one of the associates speaking with each other, said, "What happened to her?" And he said, I think she fell on her bag. And so that was it. The police came. I filed a police report. I have launched a complaint with corporate that, you know, these sales associates can't just be grabbing women's hands and squeezing them like they're lumberjacks. It's inappropriate. And so, yeah, I don't know if I got clocked or not, because I don't know if they meant, you know, she fell on her bag like her purse because I have a Kors and they know how expensive it is, or were they saying that she literally fell on her nutsack and they know I was a tran? So, I don't know, but I will be taking this and I will be escalating it as far as I can. So, Men's Wearhouse, watch out. You better send me gift cards, because this is going to not be good for you in the news. Bye.
My pussy, 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 pussy. There's a party in my pussy. Something great is going on.
Hold up, if you're a Democrat or progressive, please listen to this for just a moment. Let's have a logical discussion on gun ownership. I know that many of you distrust our police, and you fear a tyrannical police force that has ultimate power and authority over you. Well, then shouldn't we, as private citizens, want gun ownership to be able to protect and defend ourselves against a tyrannical police force? And I want you please briefly to think about Venezuela. In 2012, the communist dictatorship disarmed the Venezuelan people, taking away their gun rights. And since then, homicides have skyrocketed, including crime. So if you are against dictatorships, shouldn't you want guns in the hands of private citizens to be able to protect and defend themselves? And please, just for a moment, let's think about Germany. The Nazis, or National Socialists, disarmed the Jews before exterminating them. If you are pro-gun, then you are anti-dictatorship. If you are pro-gun, then you are anti-tyrannical police force. All we want is to be able to defend and protect ourselves against those who want to do us harm. That's it.
Right now, thousands of gun rights activists, white nationalists, militia groups, all swarming the Virginia state capitol.
There are a lot of people nervous about what's going to happen.
Authorities in Richmond are on high alert.
It could be a tense day.
Such polarization, what may happen in Virginia.
Several hate groups, supposedly some white nationalists.
White nationalists.
White nationalists.
White nationalists.
White nationalist groups.
White supremacists.
White supremacists.
White supremacists. White extremists.
This entire rally stands in opposition to the meaning of this day.
Virginia on the edge.
How concerned are you that there might be some people in this crowd that may want to get violent?
There's certainly a lot of concern here.
Raising fears of a dangerous confrontation.
There could be violence, and there is real concern there about what the intention is behind this.
There's a lot of concern about the potential for violence.
Could spark violence. Tensions high in Virginia may cause violence there.
Northam clearly trying to avoid another Charlottesville.
Yeah.
In Charlottesville, could see a repeat of what we saw in 2017 in Charlottesville.
Similar to what we saw in Charlottesville.
Worrying about a repeat of Charlottesville.
Horrible 2017 Charlottesville disaster.
You look at what happened in Charlottesville.
The two sides clashed in Charlottesville.
Men walk through the Capitol in Virginia carrying weapons of war.
Many demonstrators are, in fact, heavily armed.
Heavily armed.
Heavily armed. Look at the gear.
What is this all about?
Militia groups, armed militia.
These militia groups.
Far-right militias.
Militia groups.
Far-right extremists.
Look, those threats which caused the governor to call for a state of emergency have simply not emerged. The police very clear in saying that they have not had a single arrest during this rally.
And so what do you mean MLK believed in the Second Amendment?
He believed that it was an individual citizen's right to carry a gun and defend himself. He applied for a permit and notoriously was turned down by a prejudiced Alabama sheriff. But so clearly he thought that it was his right to be able to carry a gun. I agree. I think everybody else here does too.
And is there any reason, I mean, today is MLK Day, but it is also Lobby Day. I mean, were these two coinciding in any way, or is this just coincidence?
I mean, for me, they do. I mean, I think the reason it happens to be a day is a lot of us have the day off and are able to be here easier. But yeah, it's certainly not lost on us that today is MLK Day. Definitely not. So.
And then, I mean, I will have to ask, how did Martin Luther King die?
He was shot by a gun, of course, but that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that he believed in the Second Amendment. I mean, you could almost argue that, I don't know for sure, did he carry or not, because he was turned down. I think he probably continued to carry, but you could say that it was a prejudiced Alabama sheriff, potentially, that kept him from being able to defend himself in that situation. So,
all right, thank you.
Orders here, they see this as an affront on the Second Amendment, and certainly, yes, the president has been tweeting about this rally for several days. So, Hallie, I'm going to send it back to you.
Gabe Gutierrez live for us there. Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate it. And apologies for some of the background noise that you just heard in Gabe's live shot. Back to impeachment.
I just walked past a lovely family, and the son asks his dad, he goes, "Dad, what is that?" And the dad goes, "That's a good question." And I can't express this enough. We need to teach our children that I am the devil incarnate.
Can I be blatantly honest? My life is at stake in this next election.
It is a matter of life and death to have access to quality health care.
Birth control. To safe and legal abortion.
And accurate sexual education. And that's not happening right now.
Our reproductive rights have come into question yet again.
I was a young nurse when Roe v. Wade was passed. Now we worry about protecting it every day.
There is no reason politicians should be telling me when or if I can build a family.
We need to go forward, not backward. We didn't always have the right to vote. Many of my family members grew up in segregation.
My dad grew up in a country where he didn't have a voice, but I do.
Voting is a way to do something when you wish you could just do something.
That's the whole point of our system.
It's the basis of our democracy.
Politicians think they decide what we do with our own bodies, but guess what?
We decide.
To go out there and make the change that we want to see.
We decide who our leaders are.
Nosotros elegimos nuestro futuro.
We decide our future.
We decide.
We decide.
We decide.
the guilt of the Holocaust and its memory is fading, and that's allowing, again, I think, bad ideas to come into the center.
Because there's going to come a time in the not-so-distant future when there will be no more survivors, and
Right.
who will tell their story? And if you look at the statistics of the percentage of people who either don't know about the Holocaust, literally don't
Yes.
know about it, or don't believe it, the aspect of this from an educational standpoint, to me, is the single, other than politicians like us and people in the public discourse watching what we say and not feeding this rise in anti-Semitism, it is ensuring that this is taught as a fact of history,
Yes.
and not just some tall tale.
So we know that our own high school students do incredibly poorly in terms of their basic civics. So it shouldn't surprise us that the majority don't even know what Auschwitz was, right? And again, as was mentioned by my colleagues, the Shoah stands out as the most, probably the most horrific act, not just of the 20th century, but in the history of humanity. And the idea that as we lose these survivors, we lose the memory of the Shoah is unconscionable. So I think, as mentioned a few times, the Never Again Holocaust Education Act is really important. Every American student should be educated about Holocaust and genocide. What can happen when hate goes unchecked? What it means when law enforcement and government, the instruments of the state, are used as tools to target, to persecute, and to murder people because of how they pray or who they love or where they're from. The guilt of the Holocaust and its memory is fading. The guilt of the Holocaust and its memory is fading. The guilt of the Holocaust and its memory is fading, and that's allowing, again, I think, bad ideas to come into the center.
Fuck the patriarchy. Fuck Donald Trump. Fuck Mike Pence. Fuck white supremacy. Fuck racism. Fuck misogyny. Fuck homophobia. Fuck transphobia. Fuck capitalism. Fuck classism. Fuck transphobia. Fuck ableism. Fuck Islamophobia. Fuck anti-Semitism. Fuck every kind of bigotry out there. I'm here in front of the White House. I am not here for polite protest because patriarchy is not polite. I am not here for quiet protest because patriarchy is not quiet. Fuck the patriarchy here in Washington, D.C. Fuck the patriarchy in Cairo, Egypt, where I'm from. Fuck the patriarchy across the world. Fuck the patriarchy in every time zone. And fuck the patriarchy in every universe.
I'm Kaylina, and I'm from South Portland, and I'm disappointed in Susan Collins because of her vote for Brett Kavanaugh. I think it was a sham, and it should have gone to Obama, and Brett Kavanaugh is a radical conservative, and that's what Susan Collins has said forever she doesn't stand for. So I don't think she upheld her values or the state of Maine's values.
HRC! 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 HRC!
I provoked strong opinions.
Are we ready? There's so much to talk about.
Okay. I didn't grow up thinking about going into politics, but much to my surprise, was elected president of the Young Republicans. I got into law school. I thought I was going to try to make a difference in people's lives.
I took a class and I saw Hillary sitting there.
And he was watching me.
She closed her law book.
I said, if you're going to keep looking at me and I'm going to keep looking back, we ought to know each other's names. I'm Hillary Rodham. Who are you?
She was different than anybody I ever met. I said, I really want to marry you, but you shouldn't marry me.
There is a set of expectations about a first lady. I violated them from the very beginning.
She brought to the forefront women's roles in society.
This is radical feminism.
Me deciding to ask Hillary to become Secretary of State surprised people.
Hillary's polarizing.
Human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights.
People would run up clutching copies of that speech, reciting that line from it.
Emails blew up.
Bang. It played into all of the suspicions. She's so sketchy.
Cold, calculating.
She could actually be crazy.
There is this sense that she knows that she is an ethical, moral person, and that can blind anyone.
You know, you get scarred up a little bit.
It wasn't like I thought, how can I think about the most stupid thing I could possibly do and do it?
I didn't want anything to do with him. Chelsea put herself between us and held both our hands.
As long as she has been in public life, there have been these ups and downs. You know, be our champion, go away.
You want to make a difference, you want to have an impact. Well, then you got to get in the arena.
We're seeing threats of violence. We're seeing threats of armed confrontation and assault on our capital.
Oh, I'm a good old rebel, now that's just what I am. For this fair land of freedom, I do not care a damn. I'm glad I fought against it, I only wish we'd won. And I don't want no pardon for anything I've done. I hates the Constitution, this great republic too. I hates the Freedmen's Bureau in uniforms of blue. I hates the nasty eagle with all his brags and fuss. The lying, thieving Yankees, I hate some worse and worse. I hates the Yankee nation and everything they do. I hates the Declaration of Independence too. I hates the glorious Union just dripping with our blood. I hates their striped banner, I fit it all I could.
You need, will you be pleading guilty? What?
Go.
No,
Go.
don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Hey! Stop! Go away from me! Go away!
Fucking hell!
Go away from me!
Jesus, get away from me!
Go away
you fucking
from me.
Crazy fucking
Get
thing!
away from me! Get away! Get the fuck away from me!
Stay away from me!
Get away from me now! Right now! You heard me?
I'm calling the police on you.
I don't give a shit. Get away from me!
You stay away from me. I'm
here in South Carolina right now, and just wanted to share a few thoughts on the news that broke today about Iran taking responsibility for accidentally shooting down the Ukrainian airliner. Such an incredible tragedy. When the bullets start flying and the bombs start dropping, terrible things can happen that nobody's planned for. This is one of the great tragedies of war. We've got these unintended consequences and so-called collateral damage, leaving so many people grieving the loss of their loved ones. I saw a lot of this when I was deployed to Iraq, as well as when we went and visited Syria. So much devastation and suffering. Now, if this war with Iran escalates, it's going to make the wars in Iraq and in Afghanistan look like a picnic. It'll drain our economy. It'll result in more of my brothers and sisters in uniform losing their lives, losing their limbs, coming home with wounds that are both visible and invisible, leaving more of their loved ones and families grieving. Like, this is one of the things that a lot of people just don't understand. That the families, the loved ones of our men and women in uniform bear this heavy burden. This is one of the main reasons why I'm running for president. To end our long-standing policy of carrying out stupid wars. Wars that have cost us so much in lives and in taxpayer dollars. Trillions and trillions of dollars. Instead, getting our priorities straight, redirecting those dollars towards actually serving the needs of people in our communities right here at home, making sure that every single American has the peace of mind that they will get the health care they and their loved ones need when they need it, making sure that our kids are getting a good education in our schools, that our teachers are getting paid what they deserve, making sure that every single American in this country has clean water to drink, has clean air to breathe, making sure that we are protecting our environment. There are so many pressing and urgent needs that our people have right here at home. We need to take action to serve them.
The Second Amendment is being used as a right to oppress our First Amendment as children, to say that we should be protected, not guns. So what I'm going to ask you to do is record a video with the hashtag #IStandWithVirginia, expressing your support for common sense gun laws in the state of Virginia, because right now we can't show up because the Second Amendment is being used to actively threaten to kill people, including children.
Who has broken your heart?
Living in Newark for the last 20 years, I mean, I've been broken, shattered, wanted to have moments where I wanted to give up. And a lot of them have just involved the deaths of young black men. A month into my office, I arrive on the scene of a murder. This was my first weeks as mayor, and I was showing up to every shooting. And at this one, I barely even acknowledged the humanity on the pavement. And I ministered to the living and talked about what we were going to do to solve this crisis. But I get home that night to steal a couple hours of sleep and read through my BlackBerry. And I will never forget that moment of being broken, because the name on the BlackBerry of the kid that was murdered was Hassan Washington. And I will never, for the rest of my life, forget that feeling of suffocation in his funeral, because everybody was there. It was packed at Perry's funeral home in the basement. And to me, it felt like the bowel of a slave ship, because we were piled on top of each other, chained together in grief, moaning and crying and wailing at what is a everyday reality in America is another boy in a box. And I ran away from his funeral. I didn't even stay. And I ran back to a new mayor's office, and I sat on that couch and I wept, because we were all there for his death, but we weren't there for his life.